My husband and I were reborn. In my last life, I disregarded my own dignity to pave his way to success. After he achieved success and fame, he allowed his white moonlight cousin to poison me to death. Even my daughter suffered a brutal death at her hands. In this life, he brought his white moonlight cousin back to the Marquise's mansion early on, just waiting for me to die so he could immediately remarry. But I don't care. Later, he regretted it, crying and crawling at my feet, begging me that he no longer wanted to be inseparable from his cousin in life and death. I was reborn, returning to the night of my marriage to Chi Yunchu. In my last life, my husband never had the slightest affection for me. The one he loved was only his white moonlight cousin, Chao Yuan. Loved her so much that he watched with open eyes as Chao Yuan fed me bowl after bowl of poison. Loved her so much that even when Chao Yuan's daughter, Ning Yuan, killed Mai and his daughter, he could still hold her in his palm and cherish her like the apple of his eye. Neither I nor our daughter could compare to a single strand of Chao Yuan's hair in his heart. When I died, my body was covered in large bed sores, and the stench was unbearable. Before I was even completely dead, maggots were already gnawing at my flesh and blood. The feeling of long, thin worms moving through and tearing at my flesh is something I can't forget even after being reborn for another life. The candlelight flickered, and I sat on the canopy bed wearing the wedding dress my mother had meticulously embroidered. In my mother's hometown, there is a saying that if a new bride wears a wedding dress embroidered by her mother on her wedding day, it will ensure a harmonious and smooth life for the couple. Mother hoped the good luck from the wedding dress would be passed on to me. But this sentiment of hers was destined to be let down. The revelry in the Marquis Wan's residence temporarily subsided. Reeking of alcohol, Chi Yunshu lifted my bridal veil. Seeing that familiar face, I gave him a gentle, shy smile. Something complex flashed through Chi Yunshu's calm eyes, and he remained silent. "Husband, it is time for us to drink the nuptial wine," I reminded him, and only then did he come back to his senses. Finished drinking the nuptial wine in silence. Chi Yunshu seemed a bit thoughtful. "Don't you have anything you want to say?" I looked puzzled. "Husband, am I supposed to say something?" He was startled for a moment, then waved his hand. "It is nothing. Let's just rest. I am tired today. Let's hold off on consummating the marriage for now." Secretly retracting the silver needle in my hand, I understood that he also had a rebirth. In my previous life, after my wedding veil was lifted, I said once, I also harbored girlish feelings and was full of anticipation for Chi-Yunshu. In this life, I will never be so stupid again. Perhaps this fated bond was destined by the heavens, so even our rebirth was on the same day. If he had been reborn just one day earlier, he probably would have done everything in his power to ruin this marriage, waiting for his Chao Yuan's husband to die, to marry her as his wife. Now I am afraid he is currently plotting in his heart how to make me die even earlier than in my previous life, to end his lovesickness sooner. Unlike Chi Yunshu, this time marrying him, I was still very happy, Mother said. The husband father picked for me is an excellent man, the youngest son of Marquis Wuan, an upright person of proper conduct, and ambitious too. The Marquis Wuan household has very strict family rules. The sons of the family are not allowed to womanize, and unless it is a last resort, are even more so not allowed to take concubines. As it turns out, the words from the matchmaker's mouth are always somewhat false. At that time I was at home, listening to Mother talk about this news, and also felt that the Marquis Wusan's household was truly a very good place to marry into. I thought I would have a very wonderful life. In my past life, Chi Yunshu was always indifferent to me, unlike how my father was to my mother. Although I was a little disappointed, I still comforted myself that is just his personality. As long as I was a devoted and dedicated wife, Chi Yunshu would one day see the good in me. Although my husband was aloof, the others in the Marquis Wuan household also looked down on me because of my background. But Chi Yunshu didn't frequent brothels, didn't take concubines, and kept I comforted myself, What else was there to be unsatisfied with? By the time Marquise Wuan's estate was passed down to Qi Yunchu's father's generation, it was already on the decline. On the outside, it looked magnificent and prosperous, but in reality, the inside was already somewhat crumbling, with hidden signs of decay. Marquise Wuan held only the title, but his talents were mediocre. He was not heavily relied upon by the current emperor, and held no real power. None of the clansmen who served as officials at court were above the 5th rank. Marquis Wuan's estate had already been marginalized by the powerful and noble class. If it weren't for that, even Qi Yunchu, who wasn't the heir apparent, wouldn't have married the daughter of a 5th rank official from a poor family. Qi Yunchu's official career was not going smoothly. Seeing his face full of sorrow, my heart ached terribly for him. I made up my mind to help him. I worked hard to learn from other noble ladies, befriending the wives of high-ranking officials and aristocrats, humbling myself before them, just for a chance to pull some strings for Qi Yunchu. I am skilled in acupuncture, a unique family art passed down from my father. I exhausted all my skills to treat the wives of the capital's high-ranking officials and nobles. The ladies all suffered from the ailment of excessive worry and restless minds. With my acupuncture skills, I paved a path to success for Qi Yunchu. His official career became much smoother. When he came home to face me, his face would also show a rare softness. The day Marquis Xie praised and promoted him, he held me, his tone emotional. "A hang, with a wife like you. What more could a husband ask for?" I was too young back then, thinking that husband and wife are of one mind, and that his glory also belonged to me. But I didn't know that not everyone is grateful for a wife's sacrifices. So I got the ending of dying alone on a rotten bed, while my husband had long had a flower, like beauty by his side. On the 2nd day of our marriage, I got up early to do my hair and makeup. Qi Yunchu slept pressed tightly against the wall last night, a Chu River and Han boundary separating us, terrified that I would pounce on him, guarding his worthless chastity. But the pristine white wedding kerchief on the bed couldn't be accounted for. "Second young madam, why don't I see a stain of red on this wedding kerchief?" the mammy by my mother-in-law's side demanded with a grim face. A blush crept onto my face. Last night, my husband said he was extremely tired, so he went to rest early. Qi Yunchu, who was being waited on by a maid to wash up, was very embarrassed. Long accustomed to me handling all troublesome matters, he had forgotten about this. His displeasure showed on his face. What difference does it make which day we consummate the marriage? The matron slinked away. I slightly curled the corners of my mouth, feeling very pleased. This matron, backed by my mother-in-law's authority, loved to set rules for me. It was rare to see her so defeated. Qi Yunchu's older brother, married for 7 years and struggling to have a son, only had a single daughter who was just 3 years old. If the younger son also couldn't perform his marital duties, this direct line of the house of Marquis Wuan would die out. My mother-in-law is very worried about us consummating our marriage. After I paid my respects, she gave me a scolding. She accused me of not fulfilling my duty as a new wife, and said that is why Qi Yunchu didn't consummate our marriage, telling me to reflect on myself properly. My maid, Hui Chun, was indignant on my behalf. "Miss, how could the young master not consummate the marriage with you on the wedding night? And how could the madam blame this on you?" I comforted her. "It is nothing. In this manner of Marquis Wuan, there will be many more unreasonable things in the future." I look at Hui Chun. She is still by my side, safe and sound. Hui Chun is fiercely loyal. In my past life, she followed me yet suffered a great deal. After my daughter died, in order to protect Qi Yuan and her mother, Qi Yunchu gravely injured me, and all the people by my side were replaced with Qi Yunchu's people. Qiao Yuan boasted to me. "That bitch Hui Chun, she offended me, so Yunchu sold her off to one of those unspeakable places long ago. This time, I will protect the people around me, and I won't let a single one of the people who harmed me get away." Qi Yunchu was even colder to me than in my past life. At first, he made all kinds of excuses not to enter my courtyard. But later, after discovering how easy I was to fool, he even used fewer excuses. I didn't care at all, as I was busy treating Marquis Xi's wife, Madame Guo, for her ailment of not being able to sleep at night. Unlike Marquis Wuan, who only has a title, Marquis Xia is a military general holding real power. His family is large and flourishing. He has numerous subordinates, and with just a word, he could promote Qi Yunshu. Qi Yunshu knew I was going to befriend Madame Guo, so he got a waste token for free entry and exit from his mother for me. Madame Guo set up an infant nursery, rescuing and raising those baby girls abandoned by their parents. In my previous life, after getting to know her well, I often donated supplies to the infant nursery and visited those children. In this life, I am doing the same, she said. In this capital city, few people understand what I do, saying I am just wasting energy and money. Now I've finally found a kindred spirit. To the public, she only said we were friends despite our age gap, and hit it off right away, which is why she often invited me to her residence. To save my face, for a woman to practice medicine, especially a married woman, would always attract some gossip. Just like in my past life, Qi Yunshu coldly watched me run around, waiting for me to beg for an opportunity for him from others. But he waited for a long time, and still it hadn't come, and he got anxious. For the first time ever, Qi Yunshu entered my courtyard, and smelling the scent of medicinal oil on me, he frowned faintly. He was disgusted by the smell on my body. The smell. In my last life, being held in his arms, I thought I had finally softened his heart, and in my joy, I ignored the stiffness of his embrace. Every day I returned to the manor, exhausted. My husband never once asked me, "Aheng, are you tired?" "Aheng, I have neglected you these past few days. Your husband is here to apologize to you." His smile was like a spring breeze on my face, a kind I had never seen before. He presented a wooden box. "I saw this jade pendant today and thought it was a perfect match for Aheng." I took it happily, picking up the white jade piece of a carp holding a crabapple. My drowned daughter, a Jin, also had an identical jade pendant. A Jin was the child I gave birth to 2 years after we had a Jin. He treated us, mother and daughter, with a bit more care and protection, so I thought he always had some genuine feelings. The jade pendant was also the birthday gift he gave to a Jin. Qi Yunshu was testing me, testing to see if I was also a person of rebirth. A chill rose in my heart, but on my face I still looked overwhelmed by the favor, examined that jade pendant closely, and wore it at my waist. "This style is quite novel. Where did you find it, husband?" Qi Yunshu's gaze was fixed on me, unwilling to miss a single clue. I didn't show any flaws. I wasn't worried I couldn't cover it up. I know him very well, but he doesn't know me at all. After a long silence, he inconspicuously let out a sigh of relief. "I got it from a friend. It really suits you." I touched the jade pendant, deeply moved. "Husband, rest assured. You and I are one as husband and wife. I will definitely be your good and supportive wife. Anyun can make empty promises." Qi Yunshu was completely relieved. His suspicions were completely dispelled today. His hand caressed my earlobe. That was his usual way of flirting. Goosebumps broke out all over me. "Today, I'll come rest in your room." Words like a bestowed favor came out of his mouth, and I sneered inwardly. My tone was a bit disappointed. "But husband, I got my period today." Qi Yunshu was greatly relieved. His virginity could be saved for Chao Yuan. Then next time. Chao Yuan's husband finally died. When this news reached the residence, Qi Yunshu immediately set out to bring her back to the Qi residence. It is unknown what benefits he promised, but in this life, he didn't use his power as a high official to pressure them, and Chao Yuan's in-laws also let him take her away. Ning Yuan also came back with them. In the residence, they settled her in the courtyard where she used to stay for short visits before she got married. One day, as I was returning to the residence from the Yuing Hall, I passed by the garden and heard laughter coming from inside. Ning Yuan sat on the swing. Qianchu pushed her high up, carefully protecting her from behind just like a loving father. Chao Yuan stood to one side with a gentle smile on her face, watching them play around. So heartwarming, it was like they were a family. As she turned her head, Chao Yuan saw me, and her smile took on a hint of hostility. Sister Aheng, why are you standing there without making a sound? Don't misunderstand. It is because a Yuan wanted Yunchu to play with her today that we're together. Yunchu also stopped, standing in front of Chao Yuan. Aheng, don't be so petty. I am just keeping the child company. Afraid that I would make things difficult for his cousin, I hadn't even said anything yet, and the two of them had already said it all. Seeing this from under the swing, Ning Yuan angrily rushed over to ram into me. You bad person. I grabbed her in time, not letting her advance an inch. I hadn't even pushed her when she fell to the ground on her own and started crying. Chao Yuan glared at me with hatred, then looked sorrowfully at Chi Yunchu, hugging Ning Yuan and silently crying. Chi Yunchu saw the tears on her face, and his eyes turned red. A vicious person like you, sure enough, wouldn't even spare a child. My expression turned cold. He was talking about me wanting to kill Ning Yuan in our previous life. That seemingly innocent child is actually a devil. Maya Jin, in my past life, was drowned to death by her before he even turned 3. I wanted to kill her, but stabbed Chao Yuan, who was protecting her, and was then struck on the back of the head by Chi Yunchu, who was anxious to protect the mother and daughter, and became paralyzed in bed. You clearly saw it too. Just now I only grabbed her. I didn't push her. For you to call me vicious is truly unfair. Disappointment appeared on my face. Chi Yunchu still sided with her. She is still a child, so what if she bumped into you? The child was just playing with you. You are so unloving. Who would dare have children with you? Recently, people from Prince Wei have been coming and going in the manor. In my past life, under the recommendation of Chao Yuan's older brother, Chi Yunchu sided with Prince Wei to gain the merit of backing the future emperor. In this life, they connected even earlier, and I, this useless pawn who can bring no benefits, am already worthless in Chi Yunchu's eyes. After confirming that Chi Yunchu now treated me as if I were nothing, I snorted coldly, left the Marquise's manor angrily, and turned to go see Princess Zhaoyang. Princess Zhaoyang is the eldest princess, born to the late empress. Lady Guo and the late empress were full-blooded sisters, and she is very close with Princess Zhaoyang. After giving birth, a good friend of Princess Zhaoyang developed an embarrassing physical ailment and needed a female doctor. In both my past life and this one, we became connected because of this matter. During the treatment process, I learned that not people develop gynecological problems after marriage, but are too ashamed to speak up, letting minor illnesses drag on to become major ones. Female doctors are scarce. Daughters from good families won't take up a profession where they have to easily show their faces in public, and children from poor families don't have the leisure to study medicine. The children from the orphanage are very good candidates for studying medicine, as long as they are willing. Lady Guo will certainly support them with all her might. In my past life, I told Princess Zhaoyang about this idea, but before I had a chance to implement it, I became pregnant. After having my child, the Marquise's residence forbade me from going out and showing my face in public again, so the matter of female doctors was shelved. In this life, by now, we have long been carrying this out in secret. The guards at the princess's residence saw it was me, gave me a nod, and let me in. As soon as I entered Princess Zhaoyang's study, I told her the secret concerning Chi Yunchu and the Prince of Wei. The Prince of Wei intends to harm His Highness the Crown Prince. Chi Yunchu has taken the Marquis Wan's residence and sided with the Prince of Wei, and they've even written a pledge of allegiance. Princess Zhaoyang was a little suspicious. Is this matter for real? I was very certain. If the princess doesn't believe me, please pay close attention and investigate. The interactions between them are bound to leave some clues. Why are you telling me a secret like this? He is your husband, after all. Princess Joyoung didn't ask me how I knew, but rather why I was doing this. I had already prepared an answer. Chi Yunchu married me, but he has never treated me as his wife. He is having an affair with his cousin, and they don't even hide it from people in the Chi residence, treating me like an idiot. How can I swallow this insult? I only ask that after the princess exposes their conspiracy, you allow me to divorce him. Princess Zhaoyang chuckled lightly. If this matter is true, then I shall grant you that. I breathed a sigh of relief. In my previous life, I used this secret to ask Xiaoyang to do two things for me. The first was to beg her to protect my parents, who were framed and banished to a bitter, cold land. The second was to beg her to find Hui Chun and the other servants who followed me. The reason I know this is, speaking of which, I have Chao Yuan to thank. I was paralyzed in bed to get revenge on me for hurting her. She wouldn't let me have an easy death and force, fed me slow, acting poison day after day. What is more, she would provoke me to my face every day. Do you know, Yunshu told me that before he was with me. He never knew how blissful it was to be with a lover whose heart is also yours. You are like a block of wood in bed. Who could possibly like that? He only wants to be with me for lifetime after lifetime, to grow old together and never part. When she said these things, she smiled smugly. When she saw me, her gaze turned venomous again. It is all because you are occupying my place that I can't be with Yunchu out in the open. How do you still have the face to seduce Yunchu? She vented her anger by cutting the wedding dress my mother embroidered for me to shreds, just because as long as I was alive, she could only have an illicit affair with Chi Yunchu. A despicable woman like you who only knows how to use favors to demand repayment. How would you know what true feelings in this world are? I was already indifferent to her verbal abuse, but she became more and more outrageous, even pestering Chi Yunchu to have sex on the daybed in the outer room of my bedroom. I could hear those sounds crystal clear. I threw up a lot of the calming medicine Chao Yuan fed me, and I also overheard their conversation about Prince Wei that night. In my last life, I didn't die in peace until I waited for Princess Joyoung to return and told her about the secret plot between Chi Yunchu and Prince Wei. On old Madam Chi's 80th birthday, Chi Yunchu was promoted to director of the Ministry of Personnel, this time without my full support. He only made it to a 5th rank official even with Prince Wei's push, a far cry from this time in my past life. But the rank of the Marquis Wuan's descendants serving in the court finally broke through the major 5th rank barrier. With 2 joyous occasions happening at once, old matriarch Chi's birthday banquet was made especially grand, seeing that the Marquis Wuan's manor showed signs of rising again. Old friends who had become distant were also invited to celebrate old matriarch Chi's birthday. Even Princess Joyoung came, which brought a great deal of honor to old matriarch. Chi, the Marquis Wuan's manor hadn't been this lively in a long time. As the saying goes, power is the best asterisk. Chi Yunchu and Chao Yuan, that shameless man and woman, who would even copulate on the couch in the outer room while I was critically ill, would find it hard not to do something thrilling on an occasion like this. What is more, I also gave them a push, sprinkling a little aphrodisiac incense on the flowers in their room to help things along. Halfway through the banquet, Wei Shun, who was keeping a close eye on the 2 of them, Chi Yunshu and the other, told me they had already gone to Chao Yuan's Bailuo courtyard. Princess Joyoung timely proposed that when the group arrived at Bailuo courtyard, all the servants inside had been sent away. In the quiet courtyard, there were only the unbearable sounds of a man and a woman's passion. Hearing the familiar voice, old Madam Chi's lips trembled, and she fainted. Yuan cousin, a lady who got the juicy gossip said. Yuan, isn't that her maternal granddaughter's given name? Another person said. Isn't she a widow living at home? Even if she can't stand the loneliness, she shouldn't be doing this kind of shameful thing. How come this voice sounds like young Master Chi's? Another female voice rang out. Is Su Nian Hung better, or am I better? A greasy male voice lowered his voice. Of course you are better. I've never even touched her. I've kept myself pure as jade for you. The woman let out a flirtatious giggle, and the two of them once again started making indescribable sounds. Everyone turned their drama, watching gazes to me, and I, the wronged party, went with the flow and put on a show of being heartbroken, trembling all over and shouting, "Husband." I ran over and pushed open that tightly shut room door. Several maidservants couldn't stop me. Gossip is human nature. A group of madams and young ladies followed me closely to watch this big spectacle. The room door opened. The two people entangled on the floor trembled all over, looking in terror at the group of people standing at the doorway. Chao Yuan's flushed face turned deathly pale as she let out a scream and hid in Chi Yunchu's embrace. I broke down sobbing. "Husband, how could you do such a shameless thing with cousin Yuan? No matter how much you like her, you can't take her at a time like this. She is in the mourning period." Someone in the crowd saw this steamy scene and gasped. So the Marquis Wuan Manor doesn't take concubines. They just have affairs. The reputation of the Marquis Wuan Manor plummeted, and Qi Yunchu completely disgraced his ancestors. Even the Emperor stripped Qi Yunchu of his official position, and also stripped the Marquis of Wuan of his title. Old Madame Qi was overcome with anxious anger, and was just hanging on by a single breath. I was making a fuss, demanding to divorce Qi Yunchu. Qi Yunchu and Chao Yuan were both willing, but my parents-in-law were not. A daughter-in-law whose reputation was completely ruined. Although their son was no good either, they still came to despise me. But Chao Yuan's reputation was completely ruined, and some people wanted to capture her to be drowned in a pig cage. If Qi Yunchu didn't marry her, she could only go and die. In the end, she was carried into the mansion in a small sedan chair through the side door, and had a one-table banquet with Qi Yunchu in Beluo courtyard. To comfort her, Qi Yunchu forbade the people in the mansion from calling her concubine, and instead required them to call her young madam. With his favor, the servants in the Marquis's mansion gradually treated me as if I were nothing, and held Chao Yuan in high esteem. Therefore, I had a big fight with Qi Yunchu, said I couldn't stand the sight of filth, and took my dowry servants with me to pack up my dowry and go live at my own manor. No one disturbed them being all lovey. Dovey Qi Yunchu couldn't wait to personally send me away. In my past life, after I died, the King of Wei successfully assassinated the crown prince, and Qi Yunchu, thinking about his merit for helping the new ruler ascend the throne, was not panicked in the slightest. And I, on the other hand, brought Hui Chun with me to live in the foundling home, contentedly working as a teacher at the foundling home. The ones studying medicine with me are all 5 or 6 years old little girls with pure and cute eyes. Watching them earnestly holding their books and studying, I often think, if Ah Jin grew up, she would probably look like this too. After a period of quiet, Qi Yunchu's affair was no longer spread by word of mouth among the powerful and noble in the capital. With the help of the Prince of Wei, Qi Yunchu returned to the world of officialdom. He swaggeringly found me at the manor and tossed me a letter of divorce. "A woman like you, who can't share well and woe with her husband, is unworthy of being my wife." I calmly took out a lifelike erotic painting of him and Chao Yuan intertwined, where even the red mole on Yuan's chest was clearly visible. "If you don't want this picture to appear on the streets and alleys of the capital tomorrow, then bring me a letter of mutual divorce." Qi Yunchu flew into a rage. "How dare you?" I sneered. "Your Qi family is really bullying people too much, having pushed me to a dead end. What do you think I am not capable of doing?" I gently caressed the very seductive face of Chao Yuan in the painting. "If you don't want other men to see her looking like this, you'd better behave. Don't even think about pulling any tricks." Qi Yunchu gritted his teeth. "I was wrong about you, you venomous woman, even wanting to defile Wanner's reputation. You just wait." After spouting his harsh words, he sent over the letter of mutual divorce early the next morning. I went to the government office to register it, and from then on, I had nothing more to do with Qi Yunchu. Then arrange for people in the capital to spread the news that Qi Yunchu doted on his concubine and neglected his wife, forcing his original wife to divorce him. Qi Yunchu was busy making Chao Yuan his legal wife, but their reputations were too terrible. On their wedding day, only close relatives showed up, just a few scattered tables of people. In his official career, he was promoted by Prince Wei and was smug for a few more days. But before he even had a chance to get arrogant, he was thrown into the great prison. The speed of the rise and fall was incredibly fast. Along with him, many of Prince Wei's men were also imprisoned. The officialdom underwent a great purge. The crown prince was assassinated and wouldn't live long. Princess Zhou Yang's investigation led to Prince Wei's. She discovered in horror that this fourth brother of hers not only wanted to kill the crown prince, but also the emperor. Taking it all in one step to become the emperor himself, Princess Zhou Yang presented everything she had investigated to the emperor. When the Son of Heaven is enraged, 1,000,000 corpses lie. In his great fury, the emperor had the homes of all the officials on that pledge of allegiance confiscated and their entire clans exterminated. For a time, everyone in the capital city feared for their own safety. The crimes committed by the Marquis Wuan residents were particularly heinous. The heir of Marquis Wuan was helping Prince Wei raise a private army on his estate. Qi Yunchu, as Prince Wei's lackey, colluded with officials to eliminate dissidents for him. Chao Yuan's brother, within the Imperial Guard, was winning people over for Prince Wei. The once glorious Marquis Wuan residence was completely destroyed. The emperor ordered that everyone in the Marquis's residence be killed on the spot. Old Madame Qi was lucky, upon hearing this news. She rolled her eyes back in bed and breathed her last. The soldiers had long since surrounded the Marquis's residence. Not a single person was able to get out. I dragged Qi Yunchu out of prison and made him watch with his own eyes how his family was killed because of him. I splashed Qi Yunchu awake with a pot of ice water. On a snowy winter day, he shivered all over, opened his eyes and saw me, then pounced on me. "Aheng, are you here to save me? I knew you wouldn't abandon me." I scoffed and kicked him away. "No, I am here to send you to hell." Qi Yunchu looked up at me in disbelief. "You were clearly so deeply in love with me. You wouldn't do this to me. Is it because you don't like Chao Yuan? I'll divorce her as soon as I get back, and from now on, it'll just be the two of us." In the face of life and death, the true love he once longed for was so worthless, something he could abandon at any moment. Qi Yunchu. From beginning to end, the only person he ever loved was himself. I didn't bother with him anymore, and ordered the soldiers to escort him into the Marquis Wuan residence. Everyone in the Marquis's residence had already been tied up. Seeing me, my former mother-in-law was shocked, and then, as if it were a matter of course, gave an order. "Hurry up and untie us, or I'll have Yunchu divorce you." She forgot that Qi Yunchu and I had long since divorced, but in her desperation, she still used him to try and control and threaten me. A smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. With a wave of my hand, her Yunchu was soon thrown before her eyes by the soldiers, his face covered in blood. My former mother-in-law saw the wounds on his body and her heart ached terribly for him, furiously berating me. "Let your husband go already. This is utter rebellion. A daughter like you, raised by a family of country bumpkins, who else would want you besides our family? What connections did you get? Hurry up and go beg that noble person." The others didn't dare make a sound. Only she was still putting on her mother-in-law airs with me, which was utterly laughable. The House of Marquis Wuan has indeed been in decline for a long time. If they wanted to pick a matriarch of high status, they could only choose a stupid one, which is why the Qi Yunchu they gave birth to is this stupid. I went forward and slapped her, telling her to shut up, too noisy. She was about to curse me again for my outrageous defiance, but was forced to shut her mouth by soldiers holding blades to her. I then dragged out Ningyuan. Chao Yuan was horrified and yelled, "What are you doing? If you have a problem, come at me." I turned my head and smiled at her. "Don't worry, it'll be your turn soon." Ningyuan struggled non-stop, trying to bite me. I gripped her lower jaw, and with a squeeze, it dislocated. She was in so much pain, tears burst from her eyes. "No," Chao Yuan screamed in anguish, roaring at Qi Yunchu. "Hurry up and make her stop." But Qi Yunchu was looking at me in terror, unable to say a single word. With my own hands, I held Ningyuan. She struggled non-stop, but it was no use. Slowly, she stopped moving, watching that corpse floating on the water. Chao Yuan cried and cursed me with malicious words. Yet my heart felt an unprecedented peace. Ajin, Mother has finally avenged you personally. Everything our enemies did to us, they have now experienced for themselves. Marquise Wuan and the others were all tied up and kneeling in the courtyard, hacked to death by the soldiers. Fresh blood flowed all over the ground. Look, your stupidity has gotten them all killed. If it weren't for you taking them to seek refuge with the King of Wei, they wouldn't have ended up like this, I said to Qi Yunshu with a smile. He fell to his knees in his family's blood and wailed in anguish, listening to his cries, looking at the piercing crimson before my eyes. I just felt that everything in the world was beautiful. I don't know what heaven's purpose was in having us be reborn, but I am a vengeful spirit who crawled back from hell, and only the blood and wails of my enemies can appease my soul. The snow fell from the vast sky, landing on the ground, and also on my shoulder, slowly covering the filth with a layer of white. I turned and went back inside the house, ordering someone to move Chiyunchu onto the couch inside. Everyone else was dragged to the mass grave outside the city. The cousin he was once infatuated with had turned into a stiff corpse reeking of blood, the intestines from her stomach spilling out, her face stained with dried tears and blood, her eyes wide open, unable to rest in peace, lying beside him. I slowly used a pair of shackles to lock the two of them. Chu screamed, wanting to break free, but was powerless, and accidentally touched the intestines on her body. Sun Yanheng, it was you who killed all my family. What else do you want to do? I gave him a gentle smile. Chiyunchu, didn't you two vow to be together for all of eternity? I can't do the all of eternity part, but for this life, till death do you part, I can grant that for you. Chiyunchu looked like he was going mad. You venomous woman. If I had known your heart was so vicious, I should have killed you on our wedding day. I scoffed. If you had made a move that day, then I would have struck you first. You are just a weak scholar who can't even truss a chicken, while I have plenty of strength and means. Chiyunchu looked up to the sky and wailed. Why were you also reborn? Why did we both have to be reborn? How could the heavens be so unfair? Chiyunchu roared to the sky in agony. He lifted my foot to leave, and he fell off the couch in a panic, crawling to my feet. That corpse also moved with him, like a piece of rotten wood he dragged along, no longer beautiful and moving as when it was alive. Clearly they were so close. That was the person he yearned for day and night. Yet Chiyunchu only wanted to push her away. I am begging you, hang, for the sake of us once being husband and wife, and for Ajin's sake, kill me. Just don't lock me up with a corpse. I flew into a rage and kicked him away. He still had the nerve to mention Jin, deliberately using a Jin to provoke me into killing him. I just won't let him die so easily. I want him to go mad in fear and remorse. Want the maggots crawling out of Chao Yuan's rotting corpse to devour him, to have him die after suffering endless torture. Letting him and Chao Yuan be inseparable in life and death is the last gift I am giving him as his ex-wife. Slashing his face with my own hands, then severing the tendons in his hands and feet, I still felt it wasn't quite enough, until it finally dawned on me. And with one cut, I sliced off his family jewels, and only then was I satisfied. He kept shouting, I was wrong, begging me to let him go. But what I've always wanted was never his apology. I only want revenge. Wiping the blood off my hands, I left the mansion of Marquis Wuan. Princess Zhaoyang was waiting for me in the carriage. She smiled and held out her hand to me. Are you satisfied? I nodded gratefully. Many thanks for your help. Princess Zhaoyang didn't mind. I should even thank you. If you hadn't told me King Wei intended to rebel, how could I have reaped the benefits so easily? You said you wanted this princess to help you get a divorce, but you managed it yourself. What you are seeking isn't this, is it? I rose and bowed to her. Nothing can be hidden from your highness. What I said that day was just to use a reasonable excuse to make the princess believe in my sincerity. What I truly seek is to become the sharp blade in the princess's hands, to be of use to the princess. In my past life, Princess Zhou Yang once unintentionally mentioned to me that someone always lamented that she wasn't born a boy, as if just because she was a girl, no matter how outstanding she was, how hard she worked, or how many achievements she made, she could only be lamented, only pave the way for her brothers. The indignation and ambition in her tone made me realize that, whether in the past life or this one, she could fulfill my wish. Princess Zhou Yang stared at me for a long time, extended her hand again, and said in a deep voice, "Get up. You did very well today. What I want is a person who has methods, is ruthless, and is ambitious. If you were soft-hearted towards your former husband today, you would not be worthy of being the blade in my hand. Now you have that qualification." I let out a breath of relief, took her hand to get up, and sat back in my original seat. The carriage slowly drove away from the Marquis of Wuan's residence. I bid farewell to all of my past. Without relying on a man, I will also have a very good life. From now on, there will be no second young mistress of the Marquis of Wuan residence in this world. Only the female official Sunian Heng in the Princess Zhao Yang's residence. Extra first life after Sunian Heng died, and was just buried, Qi Yunshu couldn't wait to marry Chao Yuan as his new wife, to marry his widowed cousin who was living in the Marquise's residence right after his wife's death, would make outsiders' imaginations run wild. Besides, Qi Yunshu and the other person had long since become husband and wife in reality. If word of this were to spread, the reputations of both Qi Yunshu and the Marquise's mansion would be ruined. Their marriage could only be postponed. Qi Yunshu and Chao Yuan were like dry wood and a raging fire. Full of passionate love, unable to get married, they could only sneak around in the Marquise's mansion. A thought popped into Qi Yunshu's mind, if only Sunian Heng could die sooner. The thought that he wished Sunian Heng had died sooner swirled in his mind for 2 months. He thought about it so much that one day during the morning court session he vomited blood, and after being carried back to his residence, his body rapidly deteriorated. In order to use a joyous event to counteract his bad luck, the Marquis Yuan and his wife held a hasty and simple wedding for the two of them. Chao Yuan aggrievedly married Qi Yunshu, and on top of that, had to serve a man who didn't have long to live every day. It was extremely suffocating. Qi Yunshu, however, didn't know. Daily immersed in Chao Yuan's feigned tenderness, the joyous wedding also didn't extend his lifespan, and he died of organ failure in less than a month. Before he died, he held Chao Yuan's hand, praying to the heavens to let him be reborn, so he could be with his beloved sooner. With Qi Yunshu gone, Chao Yuan's days in the Marquise's mansion were also tough, as the Marquise of Wuan believed she had jinxed Qi Yunshu to death and would either beat or curse her. Ning Yuan couldn't bear to see her wronged, so she snuck into Lady Hao's bedroom at night and stabbed her to death by piercing her temples with a needle. And after being discovered by a maid, Chao Yuan could only take Ning Yuan and flee back to the Chao family. Seeing that her beauty was the only asset she had left to be used, her brother in turn passed her on to King Wei as an attendant concubine to solidify their relationship. After King Wei murdered the crown prince and staged a palace coup, he was trapped like a turtle in a jar in the imperial city by the well-prepared Princess Zhou Yang, and all officials connected with King Wei were uprooted. Although Qi Yunshu was dead, the treasonous acts he had committed for King Wei in his lifetime were all uncovered. The Chao family and King Wei were even more closely implicated, and both families had their 3 clans exterminated. On the day the Wuan Marquise's residence was ransacked, Princess Zhao Yang thought of Sunian Heng and personally went to the Wuan Marquise's residence. Ever since Sunian Heng's death, her courtyard was sealed up. As Princess Zhao Yang pushed open the door, a gust of gloomy and cold air rushed to her face. She entered Sunian Heng's bedroom. The presence of the deceased was long gone from inside. Princess Zhao Yang turned in a circle and sighed in her heart. But when she was about to leave, she discovered that the couch in the outer room was actually corroded beyond recognition. A thought struck her. She ordered someone to inspect this couch and found a type of poison had been smeared on it that, when mixed with the incense Chi Yun-chu usually loved to use, would poison and corrode the internal organs. Chi Yun-chu and Chao Yuan loved to fool around on this couch when Sun Yanheng was critically ill, which directly ended his life. Princess Joyoung smiled, feeling a bit of regret as she thought of Sun Yanheng. This woman, who once had a brief association with them, still managed to kill her enemy with her own hands. If she were still alive, I would definitely have taken her under my command. What a pity.